This is bottom of the bill. You know, success is never what you think it looks like. We're all doing what we got to do to kind of get by in this thing, and whatever that looks like is just what it looks like.
There isn't a finish line, I think, is a good way to think about it. There's not a finish line. There's not a point that you get to where like, I did it.
Yeah.
I'm completely successful. Everyone take notes from me.
Longevity in this industry is one of the hardest things to achieve, I think.
If you're out there grinding, you're working, you're talking to people, you're communicating, you're promoting, you're playing shows, you're emailing, texting, you know, like doing all that groundwork. If you're doing stuff like that, you're doing it. You're in the industry. The best thing you can do is not stop. If you believe in something and you're getting good feedback and you feel like it's going somewhere, sticking around is a pretty powerful force.
All right, guys, welcome to Bottom of the Bill. How do we usually start these things off anyways?
It's a mix between high and low energy with our two that we've run so far.
Yeah.
One,
The
hey guys, I'm Anton. I just played a jam.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, I'm Anton and I'm very tired.
Yeah, well, the first one we did, we came in after the Southern Grill Jam with West.
Oh, at night?
Yeah, we just came in and just fucking like, we were like both flying high after that, and we just like fucking went right into it and just felt so natural. And then other times I'm like, how are we going to start this conversation off? So I guess we've already started it off.
It has happened. I can't hear what my guests are saying, but something cool.
What's been going on with you, Chris?
Had some just gigs this weekend. Highlight for sure was the Blue Jay Time Wise single release.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It was really good. That's our second gig ever with that band. Jeremy and I play in Time Wise, and the first one was really fun and energetic, but like musically had a little left on the table, I feel like. But we tightened up a lot of stuff and got everyone really musically on point and had a pretty decent crowd, and it was a really, really fun gig. It was a good time.
Hell yeah.
And we put the single out into the world. It's out everywhere. You can stream Golden Boy.
Is it on Tidal, though?
It's on Tidal. Yeah. Jeremy had we weren't going to do it, I don't know how you feel about Jay-Z. Yeah, so we almost didn't, but Jeremy, he convinced me, so.
How was it turn out?
It was pretty solid. We probably had 40, 50 people, something like that. Ish.
Something like that. It was. I had a lot of friends out of town, so it wasn't as many people as that I wanted to come, but it was decent.
Yeah, for a band that has only existed for a couple months, pretty decent in my book.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Hell yeah.
So yeah, that was a highlight for sure. And then it was just regular good old gigs.
Nice.
The rest of the weekend.
I went down to Orlando on Saturday and then stayed Sunday also, and I had like some friends of mine visiting town or whatever, and it's always good for me like seeing these are like my friends from high school and really just all high school, so it's cool to be able to go and do that because that was like before I was really like playing music at all, so, or at least professionally, so for me it helps. Like, I don't like using the word grounded, but it certainly like anchors you to like this place where like, I don't know, just like before you started doing things like the way that you're doing them now. So like, it just kind of brings back like a youthful thing, I think, that helps me just remember where I came from, I guess.
Remember who you are and who you were.
Exactly.
Try and not let the two stray too far apart,
yeah,
right? Exactly.
It's easy, like when you're doing, as you guys know, when you pursue music and like, you're learning about all these different things, professionally and creatively. And I think there's like, you evolve as a person as you get older too. And you can kind of lose sight of who you were. And although it's good to change, I think there are elements that you don't want to forget, and I think that for me, going and seeing my friends like that is that thing. And it's very, therapeutic for me. That being said, it's good to be back at work because I can get lost in the sauce.
Totally.
How was the traffic? Was that nice and meditative and humbling and grounding?
The times that I left here like at noon on Saturday, so the traffic was fine in Orlando when I got there, and then it was also Saturday, and then
you never know though, man.
Yeah, the 408 can be a bit of a clusterfuck sometimes. Or no, sorry, I-4, right?
I-4 is the bad one that I've encountered. Yeah,
it can be pretty gnarly, but it wasn't too bad when I was there. So that's pretty much how my week went. I had and then when I was there, I found out I had like all of my Saturdays and Sundays canceled at some spot that I will not name for the rest of the year because of football season. So
that does narrow it down.
They just forgot that there was football.
No, and I'll give them the credit they deserve, because we talked about it when we booked these dates, like back in February. He was like, I might have to cancel some of these because of football season, so I'm going to give you like a lot of them, so that way they're not like all gone.
Yeah.
So he gave me like dates on like Thursdays and stuff too, and Fridays.
Oh, there's football on Thursday too.
I know, but he lets me keep those, and I can start really late because the games always go late, so I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, all Saturdays and Sundays got canceled, so that was
All of them.
pretty lame. Yeah, every single one. So now, like, literally, my calendar for Saturdays and Sundays has opened up like drastically. It's a real big problem, but I will figure it out, because I got to save some money and do some things I'm trying to do. I'm not going to talk about right now, but
it's about feet. He's getting a serious foot makeover.
You beat me to it.
yeah, that's what it is. So that's pretty much how my week's been going. How about you guys?
Pretty good. I just had a similar. I actually just went to Orlando last weekend.
Oh,
as
for
well.
real?
And I saw my friend just graduated college, and I went and saw her, and she's like that. She's one of the friends I've had since I was 5-6 years old, and we don't see each other a lot, but it's definitely a refresher, like a kind of stepping back into myself, out of the grind and out of the just constantly whatever's constantly on my mind about furthering my career and shedding, getting my chops up. Like, that is all I think about 24/7. And I'm here, I'm like, childhood memories, like, it's a very similar experience to what you described.
Yeah.
And then I came back and did some bar gigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bar gigs.
We all got to do that.
We're
Just fucking make ends meet
We're all
right now.
doing them.
Yeah. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's funny. I actually, one of my best friends since my freshman year of high school came into town with some of his college buddies, and literally the same kind of experience this past weekend. I don't know what it is. I guess it's this time of the year where everyone's transitioning, about to like start their new fall schedules and stuff, and just wanted to catch up with like old people or something like that. But he came into town and he was just asking me all about like the gigs I've been doing and the bands that I'm in and all the projects that I'm putting together. And he was like listening to like the new single that Starcaller put out and stuff. And I was just, some of his roommates from college were there, and I remember going up and visiting them like 5 or 6 years ago, and just getting into like jazz music and all this stuff, and like kind of just started to form my identity as a musician like around these times. And I look back on those times when I met all of them and just realized how my musical identity has formulated so much since those years, and playing festivals and playing all kinds of different cities in Florida, and playing some shows out of state and that kind of thing. So it's just like a recap, but also like humbling in a way, because I realize how much stuff out there is that I want to do still, and how I'm just like having such a great time achieving certain goals, but still like deeply unsatisfied with like not the career that I've had like in the past, but just like unsatisfied with where I am, and I just want to keep going and keep progressing. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing being unsatisfied.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, not reaching that level of contentness where you're
Staying
just
hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of people get to that point. It's like, well, I've done this and I've done that, and and I deserve this type situation, and like, or you just get comfortable where you're at, and that shit stunts your growth, man.
Yep.
So, also for those who don't know, these are Starcaller guys. You got KP and Jeremy on this intro with us today. We definitely didn't just do a podcast with them. And this week on the show, we have Andrew Scotchie, who's a good friend of ours from Asheville. I've had the luxury of doing several tours with them and working with them closely over the years. And he's a really just great guy. And he was on the show promoting his new album, Love Is Enough. And honestly, I've been listening to it a lot lately. It's very well done. Great songwriting. But if you're familiar with the work he's done with the River Rats, it's a bit of a departure from that. But I think it's a good thing. It's definitely like new and refreshing. So yeah, check out the album. And here's the episode. I hope you guys enjoy. Let us know what you think. Peace. This is Bottom of the Bill. So what's been going on, man? How's life?
Hey, Anton, how you doing? Good to see you, man. It's been a crazy busy month, but a good month. You know, a lot of good stuff happening for the music, and just also finding time on like the personal front, just to kind of stop and appreciate stuff, and learning how to cope with stress better, I'd say.
Yeah, man.
You know,
I feel like that's
thankful
kind of
for that.
I feel like that's kind of something that's in the ether right now. I think that because I'm going through like a similar thing also, where there's a lot of kind of looking inward and trying to learn how to cope with things and manage things better, cutting out certain things from your life, and just kind of trying to keep on the right track and stay focused. And I think that I'm certainly not alone in that. And the people that I've been speaking with all seem to be on a similar journey. So I'm curious about, what's been going on with you on that front, and what has there been like a big catalyst in your life that's made you kind of want to recalibrate, I guess?
Yeah, as cheesy as it might sound, I mean, turning 30 definitely was it kind of opened up a new chapter in my life. I mean, how can it not?
Yeah.
And the album that I put out last month, it definitely it feels like it was a pretty bold decision to put out, a pretty different style of music, because I've been putting out records since 2012, 2013. And this new album is kind of a departure, in a pretty natural way from my previous sound, and is exploring some new things. And I think that was in itself, that was inspiring, and it gave me some confidence. And be like, yeah, you can do completely different things, and people are still going to take interest. And I think just connections, with the body as well. Like I'm learning how to tour and in a more ergonomical and healthy way, I would say. I had a bulging disc in my back. I guess I still technically do, but
Jesus,
you've seen our shows. I'm not really sure. Like I did like a somersault at soundcheck, like the day that it happened, but the doctor's like, man, it could have been anything. It could have been leading up for weeks, and there was like no telling. So
damn, 30 hits you hard, huh, dude?
it was funny. It was funny because I was joking with everybody. I was like, oh man, 30. Let me tell you, man, 30 is gonna hit, and it's all just downhill from there. I was being really dark about it, and we did that hometown birthday show that we do every year at the music hall that you guys did with us a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And right after sound check, it happened, and I couldn't get off the floor. I couldn't straighten my back or anything like that. It was fucking awful.
Oh fuck, man.
And so I roll in to the venue. It's a packed out hometown show. I'm like 30 minutes late, and I roll in, and my cousin has one side, my girlfriend has my other side. I'm just like limping in, and everybody thought I was joking. They're like, oh, ha ha, very funny, very funny. I'm like, no, I'm like actually injured, and I had to play in a chair, like a throne almost. But yeah, a lot of people thought I was faking
shit.
it. That was, yeah, and just for the record, I absolutely 100% was not. I mean, you've seen our shows, and you know how theatrical I like to be and everything. Yeah, so totally. That was scary, man. It definitely put a lot in perspective for me, and it made me I mean, we had less than a month after that show to get ready for a tour out west that was going to be 3 weeks, and I had really no choice but to heal as quickly as possible. So I think that put a lot in perspective for me, and made me get a deeper appreciation. You know, I've always appreciated what I do, you know, and the fact that I get to do it for a living and everything. But after you're laying in bed and you can't do shit for weeks, and then you have to kind of heal yourself and get yourself back to what was normal, it makes you really, really appreciate it. I did not really think that any of those shows were going to happen that we did in February out in Colorado and stuff. I just was not really sure. It was flying by the seat of my pants, and they actually turned out to be the best ones we've ever done out there.
Wow, maybe going into it with the kind of, you know, new appreciation for everything, maybe that kind of helped with the mindset a little bit going into them.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's different now, you know? Yeah.
How are you touring more like ergonomically, and what kind of things are you kind of implementing into the routine now? Because as we all know, touring is a very it takes a toll, man. It's a rough lifestyle.
Let's talk about touring. My biggest tip would be to get one of those like yoga back roller things.
Oh yeah.
And because, you know, when you're in the van for even just like 3 to 10 hours, you know, just anywhere in there, I think that around like 2 to 3 hours is when your body starts to be like, all right. And movement is such an important thing. So like I use one of those back rollers, and I'll do that before every show.
You actually turned me on to that. You turned me on to that in Charleston, as we played at the Poorhouse together up there. And you were like, yo, you should try this back roller thing. I do it before every show. It really helps. And I did it. And in the process of doing it, I was like, this is ridiculous. And then when I got done, I was like, holy shit, I feel way more mobile now. And I remember like that night specifically being like a good show. So I don't know if that is what did it, but it definitely felt like it helped a lot.
When you feel good, you play great, man. You know, you feel great, you play great, and it's important, and it's, you know, something I didn't do when I was 22. You know, like touring around in a minivan, just slammed to the gills with stuff, and you know, back then you could sleep on a dog bed or like a kitchen floor and be totally fine. Now it's not necessarily like that, and there's just little things like that. Really, really good food. Just trying not to eat, you know, shit. is really important.
Yeah, man, that's such a another aspect that I think is like not talked about enough, is just eating right and taking care of your body and everything to like help you with that grueling lifestyle, at least the best that you can. There's not always time to stop and you know, do the things necessary, but to get it in while you can when you're on the road is super important to keeping a healthy mindset.
Absolutely. I think it's also just important, like mentally, for your mental health, just to kind of keep things in perspective. And even on like a hard night where maybe, you know, you play in front of 20 to 50 people and only 4 or 5 of them are really tuned in and really listening to what you're saying and everything, you got to try to remind yourself that what you're doing is a really special thing. And there's a lot of people out there that want to be doing it. So I try to remind myself that while I've put in a ton of hard work over the past 10 years and physically broken my back at times, it definitely is something I considered myself to be fortunate to have, you know? And I take it very seriously, and I appreciate it so much. Yeah, especially with this, like the new songs and everything. It's been really cool to see people singing them and just taking the message, especially coming out of the world that we've been in for the past 3 years. You know, it kind of feels like this summer things are really like back, and it's like scary to even say because I don't want to jinx it or anything, but it feels like people are way more relaxed about going to shows and things are really back.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that sense as well. Even when I was in California a few weeks ago, I didn't sense that people were nervous about going out and doing stuff anymore, where as, you know, even a year previously, because I have a sister who lives out there, and she was telling me that that's not been the norm for a lot. I mean, it took them, you know, they were on lockdown for like a year, but then it took them like another year to really fully get back into the swing of things. So when she came to visit us in Jacksonville, back in 2021, summer of 21, she came out here, and she couldn't believe that just the nightlife and everything was kind of back to where it was before everything went down. And then so going out to LA was interesting, just to kind of see how that wasn't really things were getting back to normal, it seemed like. So I think that's definitely a good observation. Across the board, things are getting back to normal, I think. Hopefully.
Oh yeah. No, I believe we're scarred but smarter, and gonna just keep on going, man. Keep on going. Super happy.
Yeah,
and,
man.
Excited about the festivals, the outdoor shows we've done this year have been really fun, and yeah, man. You know, July sometimes it's easy to kind of like get overwhelmed with a lot of stuff because it's kind of like the middle of the year, and you know, you got a lot on your plate typically, but I'm thankful to say that this July is like probably one of my favorite like middle of the year points of my life so far.
Awesome, man. Happy to hear it.
All right, guys, this episode's brought to you by Best Buds CBD Store. If you're like me, maybe THC isn't always the right high for you, or maybe the legal status of THC has you a bit hesitant to indulge. So at Best Buds CBD Store, they have an array of CBD and Delta 8 THC products. These guys truly care about their service, so everything is meticulously sourced and prepared to deliver a top-notch product and experience. If you head to their website, you'll find all kinds of educational information regarding Delta THC and CBD. Not to mention, if you use promo code BotBPod, that's BOTB pod, you'll save 10% on your order. This is not a one-time deal. If you use promo code BotBPod, every time you place an order with Best Buds, it will give you 10% off. That's in perpetuity, forever. So head over to bestbudscbdstore.com and start saving on all of your CBD and Delta 8 products. Enjoy, guys.
So you've just kind of gone through a bit of a rebranding situation yourself too, right?
Yeah.
'Cause the music is sounding different. It's a different approach. You're collaborating with different people, and you're no longer using the River Rats name anymore. It's just all under Andrew Scotchie.
Right. Yeah. The rebrand. I mean, really, there wasn't a conscious effort to go. I didn't go into the studio and to record "Love Is Enough" and go, I have to sound different. This one has to be. It wasn't contrived like that at all, because I can't stand music that, you know, is mapped out. I like music that feels natural and it feels spontaneous and fresh. It was more so just these songs had not been recorded yet. Logan, Fritz, and Neil Reed, they were available for the sessions. They were enthusiastic about it. I'd wanted to record with Logan for a long time, ever since we first did a show together. And I think that once we kind of started messing around with them, it in the studio, it kind of took on its own sound, and it was refreshing to do something or to be working on something and go, oh man, this is going to come out of left field for some people, and it might surprise some people. And that's been really exciting, because there's definitely some signature sounds on the album, but there's a couple tracks like Mirror and Just Fine that are really scaled back, and you can hear everything in the room, and the intensity's still there though.
Yeah, man. The single that you put out was really good. It is totally a departure. At least the single was a departure from what I've heard in the past. Kind of like, you know, more like a Tom Petty kind of thing, which I know you're influenced by him. But the stuff that you were doing with the River Rats was definitely more hard-nosed rock and roll, it seemed like. Whereas this is kind of more looking inward. I feel it's more lyric driven. Do you think that the whole album kind of represents that, or, you know, are you still kind of pulling from the younger influences?
Man, I think it's a mix, and I think that, you know, like we were talking earlier, we're talking about this new chapter. You know, I think this album is also pretty synonymous with entering my 30s and being reflective and really kind of looking back on the past 10 years and taking what I've learned from recording music and performing music and just being able to do something different, you know. I think that any artist that has stood the test of time plays around with different genres and different sounds, and I've always done that in my music. If people really listen, you know, like if they listen to Family Dynamo from 2018, Sleeping Alone is 100% a ballad, you know. And then there's also rock and roll songs that are straight ahead, in your face, raunchy, and I like the mix. You know, I think it's important to have the songs that make people just want to get up, bounce around, have a really good time, and just, you know, have that cathartic release. And then I focus on the lyrics a lot, you know. And if a song doesn't say something, if it doesn't really take me somewhere or make me think, then I'm just not into it, you know. And I also, you know, there's also some funny, goofy moments. You know, I'm surprised nobody has given me complete and utter shit about the Too Many Jam Bands song. I mean, y'all are really letting that one slide.
Yeah. I actually agree with that sentiment, though. I think there's too many jam bands, and Side Hustle got kind of like put into that box just because we played a lot of those festivals, but we weren't like really a jam band. We had like one or two songs that we might have gone off on a tangent on, but like most of our songs are pretty arranged and not a whole lot of improv going on. And like obviously we've done shows together. We kind of kept most nights pretty much uniformed, like where we did like, you know, a similar set list. And then, but it's always been a big thing, like even within like the inner dynamics of the band, about like jam band or not jam band, and what
how
route
jammy
you want
to
go.
take it.
Yeah, man.
What
because,
flavor of jam? How thick is the jam?
Yeah, and it's too much. Like I think there's certainly too much of it. I think like.
How much jam is too much jam? Like
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to figure out, right? How many noodles is too many noodles?
Right.
And, yeah.
And it's just like and then also like, you know, I think there's a different approach that can be had with improvisational music. Like I don't know why there still has to be so many like regurgitating of Fish or the Dead, and then like there's all these like bands that have come out in the last 10 years. I'm not going to mention I wouldn't dare mention those names on this podcast, but there's certainly a lot of them that come out where they just sound the same, and it's like,
yes,
I want to hear a new, like, I'm down for the improv stuff, but let's hear it in a different context maybe, right?
Yeah.
Chris?
Look, man, the key of G Mixolydian is fun to play in, and don't you dare take that away from us.
Yeah.
Have we made your producer angry?
I know one scale, and I want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, he knows one scale and he wants to use it.
You know, all right, so here's a total disclaimer, and just, you know, on the record, I absolutely adore some jam infused music, and I think that some of the best bands / artists that we listen to from all the way even back into the 60s, they knew how to jam. They knew how to do it tastefully. I mean, if you listen to some old Rolling Stones stuff, you know, they're known for hooks, rock and roll, but there's also songs like I mean, Can't You Hear Me Knocking? There's a huge jam section on that, and you know, I think I was drawn to the kind of jam section, or the jam aspect of music, because as we were coming up in the scene, that was really present in Asheville. I mean, the Tuesday Night Funk Jam was where a lot of people in my generation like learned how to just get up and play with anybody. So I think there's like an educational aspect. I think as a musician, it's really it pulls you in because it gives you freedom to kind of get up with anybody and kind of find that universal language or that universal groove. So I absolutely love it for that. I just think that some of the jam rock scene has kind of turned into like like in like the late 70s. If we're talking music history, if you think about the late 70s with the punk movement and how it just exploded, and then there were just a lot of copycat bands. There are a lot of copycat bands that kind of I don't know. I think that some aspects have reached a cliche kind of sound, and the song itself is also really just meant to be funny. I actually had guy I play with on bass, Sean. Is that right?
Oh yeah, Sean. Yeah, Sean. Yeah.
Sean messaged me the morning the album came out, and he said, "Dude, I like the new stuff. I think it's hilarious. Or I think that song's hilarious." So immediately out of the gate, I got a jammer approval.
Yeah.
And and it's really just like I know I overheard people say, "Oh, there's so many jam bands." I overheard people say stuff like that, and then I thought it'd be funny just to make a little poke at it, and yeah.
No, I dig it, man. I think it's hilarious as well. I do think that there are too many jam bands. Again, like what happens is that people see a model and it works, and then it's like, well, let's try and do that thing. It's kind of what's baked. It was what was baked into the ether for a minute there. And I think people were just trying to hop on the bandwagon, and as a result, it ends up sounding like this kind of just sounds redundant, or like this kind of reductive version of like the real thing. So it gets saturated with all this bullshit, and then you have like bands. You're competing with bands on festival lineups that aren't even really there for the music. They're just there for the hang, and somehow like they're trying to they're existing in the same like capacity that you're trying to exist in, and it becomes like a real it waters down the whole thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in the song I say I want something new, and that's just really kind of a call to anybody who's putting out music. Try to say something that hasn't been said before, or try the best you possibly can. And again, I really hope that people listening to this don't write me off for poking fun at it, because if you listen to my stuff, if you listen to any of our shows, actually, we have jam band qualities.
Yeah, totally.
And we embrace those. I think it's just like we were saying earlier, how far do you take the jam? When do you cut it off? And I think it's important just to pay attention to your audience, and just try to focus on the song as much as possible. And we intentionally made Too Many Jam Bands, a song. We intentionally made it like 2 minutes or something like that. We wanted to make it as Logan put it, we made it Ramones long. Like we made it like as short as a Ramones song.
I like it.
But yeah, man, I mean, the album is steeped in there's some goofy, fun moments like that, and then there's some that are completely revealing, and it's just the voice and the guitar, which is how I primarily write. So what people are hearing on this album is kind of where it all starts for me as far as the songwriting process. And if you come to live shows, you're gonna see those songs amplified and taken up a few notches with the intensity of the band behind it. But I also think I just wanted to share a side of myself that had never really been caught on record before, and this album does it. I'm very proud of it.
Do you feel like surrounding yourself with the people that that you've collaborated with on this record kind of allowed you to feel more comfortable in the space to write more vulnerably, and not to discredit. I mean, Keith is one of my really good friends. I love him, and Logan, I like a lot as well, and truly appreciate him as a drummer. But I'm just curious because, whatever you do one thing so long with people, and then sometimes you kind of feel like you're doing this thing, and like you don't think about doing like the other thing, which could be a more vulnerable take or a newer version of yourself.
Yeah, I invited both Logan and so we're talking about Logan Jane, who was playing with us last year on drums, and Keith Harry, who I've played with for years, and he plays bass and sings, and he was working on his album at the same time that I invited him to do those sessions. So it was very open like that. It wasn't like I gotta go and do my thing and hide this thing from you. I invited him to the sessions, but he was busy with his thing. I'm like, okay, great, yeah. And then Logan, turns out that Logan Fritz, who played guitar and really helped bring these songs to life that you hear, he's a phenomenal bass player. Like, he got in there and just absolutely crushed it. He did some really tasteful things on the album, and so it kind of naturally came together. I don't like mapping songs out to an extent to where it takes, like, it just sucks the life out. You know, like I like some spontaneity, and we actually only had one rehearsal before the album. So me, Logan Fritz, and Neil Reed, the drummer that did the sessions for the album, we did one rehearsal for, like, I want to say just 4, maybe 5 hours, with like a couple breaks, and we ran the songs. There was like 1 or 2 that really needed work, but the other ones, you know, like the structure was already there, and Logan and I really understood what this album meant and how it was going to be different. And it was almost like there were times we didn't even have to verbally communicate, you know, and he was right there on the same page with me, and it's exciting. I want to do more and more albums with him. Like, I'm trying to get back in the studio this fall with him, to be honest.
Oh yeah, man, that's awesome.
And anything I can do to collaborate with him. But yeah, playing with other people simply makes you play differently, and I think it's important to play live with other people, record with other people. Is they're going to interpret your songs differently than somebody else would, and you're going to play differently with somebody. Yeah, it's really important, and it as long as it's about serving the song and getting the best possible product, you know, and trying to change people's lives and make people happy, you know, and be there, you know, I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, for sure, man. There is definitely an element, I think, of playing with new people that makes you just more present as well. You know, like, you're not you're having to listen to their tendencies more and adapt, and they have to do the same to you, and it creates this environment where everyone's just very, very present, which can be fresh, because when you're playing with people that you've been playing with for, you know, X amount of time, there's certainly you know, at least I'll speak from my perspective, that I think that I can sometimes like lean too much on that comfort, and I don't want to use the term phone it in, but you're definitely not exercising the spontaneity in the same way. At least I'm not. Do you feel that at all?
I mean, I fell in love with the performance aspect of music before I even knew what a chord on the guitar was, or before I even touched any instrument. You know, going to shows at a young age, you're falling in love with how there's people there that don't know each other, but it's like, you know, you're one big family and you're there essentially for the same reason. I fell in love with that before I knew anything technical about music. So anytime I play live or anytime I record, I try to have that kind of primal instinct in the music, if that makes sense. You know, I think it's very important to have the rawness, and people can tell, man. It's important to keep in mind that, you know, like, the quote unquote average listener, they can tell a difference between somebody phoning it in and going through the motions versus somebody that is on stage. They're working through something. They are telling you a story. They are sharing a very revealing part of their soul to you. And they're not up there because they like to do it. They're up there because they have to do it. And that's one thing that music has always been for me. I mean, I like it. I'm totally addicted to it, but I have to do it. This is my purpose. This is my calling. And I think that people can see the difference between that and a hobbyist, you know, for example. And I think the past 10 years for me has been making it more and more consistent work days, even when I'm not touring. You know, I'm here at my little bunker / studio basement Rattler type thing, you know.
Rattler, is that what you call
the
it?
Rattler. It's got a few names. And it's got a side hustle poster up there. It's pretty cool.
Fuck yeah,
yeah. But even when I'm not touring, I'm working on the promotional side of things. I'm working on how can we outdo what we did last month or last year. It's a growing process. But yeah, short answer, I try to always, when it comes to performance and recording, I try to give it absolutely everything. And if there's ever been a time in the studio where I'm like, I'm not feeling something, I don't touch it. I leave it alone, come back to it. And yeah, those songs, we recorded those songs in 3 days and mixed it. Didn't really overthink it too much. I had never worked with Mike before. I'd never worked with Mike Stevenson at the studio, but he absolutely crushed it. And he was highly regarded by Logan Fritz, so the trust was already there. And I couldn't be happier with what he did with it. And I liked that we did the initial tracking in 3 days and we didn't screw around. We got in there, we got shit done.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's super hard to do, especially when you're not putting in, 6 months of rehearsals or however long on the back end just to try and tighten everything up so you know exactly what's happening. I think that there is an element of being in the moment when you're in the studio where something about that vulnerability of like really being present that allows you to give a very real performance. There's no like I said before, like when you get into that routine of playing tunes over and over and over again, and you know exactly what's coming next type thing. That kind of I don't know what the term is I'm looking for. I don't want to use apathy or phoning it in again. I want to but just there's a level of familiarity that I think you're not as on the edge of your seat about as a performer, that I think can kind of shine through on a record. So like when everyone is there, present, listening, making sure they're just trying to get the perfect end result, or at least the perfect performance, however that might be. I think that really comes through,
Yeah, it's important to have that for sure. And I think people can hear excitement in music, and they can hear, what the experience might have been like, and if they really listen. And for us, it was joyous. And like I said, I want to keep recording with Logan. He is a truly freakishly talented musical person, and I'm so thankful for his contributions on the album, and I'm thankful for how people are receiving the album and how they're taking that simple message, love is enough, and spreading it and doing something with it. And I've always just wanted to obviously I got to take care of roof over my head, and I got to make enough money to live and everything, but music is greater than one person. And a good album, a good song, it can become an unstoppable force. And I try to keep that in mind when recording or playing live. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it hasn't, the album hasn't hit any charts, or I don't have that many Spotify listeners. In fact, some might call it embarrassing how many monthly Spotify listeners I have. But I don't give a fuck, because I know that the amount of shows that I do, the amount of touring I do, and the amount of lives that I've gotten to connect with, and that human connection is there, and that is never going to go away. And it's the best. It's the best thing to count. That's what I try to count, as far as like how many human connections can you make. Even if the show, like we were talking about earlier, if people are kind of checked out, or you're put in an environment that isn't necessarily conducive with your live show, if you can connect with one person, two people, whatever, and make their day better, they make your day better. I mean, that's what it's about. Your mission is accomplished at that point.
Yeah, totally. I think that's definitely the ultimate measure of success, is like the people that do hear what you're putting out, receiving it, and really getting something out of it. We had somebody locally here that saw us. They stumbled upon us. We were playing a local show, and it was kind of dead. It was just a bad night. He and his girlfriend were in the room, and there was one song that they really liked a lot, and they went and they found us on Spotify and they listened to it. The next time I saw him, he brought that song up. he quoted the lyrics and then quoted like a guitar part that I played, and I was like, that was one of the first times that it actually happened to me, and I was like, holy shit, that was like wild that hit you in that kind. That's exactly what I wanted it to do, but you don't think about it actually happening. Like you don't like just as a, and then when somebody tells you that, it's like it kind of like blows your mind, for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, some people aren't that vocal when it comes to showing the appreciation. This job that we do is definitely at times it can be pretty fun, high energy, and I guess glamorous. But for the most part, it's grinding, And there's not always a ton of thank yous. Hey, we get you, we understand you, we know how much pain you go through just to get onto one stage. So yeah, it's important to count those connections, and it's important to not compare yourself to. I mean, I think in a business sense, you kind of have. You have to keep up with what's going on, what kind of sounds are being put out, what's new, and you need to be kind of competitive in that way and stay up to date. But you can't be like, oh well, this person just got this kind of write up in blah 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 magazine, and I wanted to get that, and now I suck, and get down on yourself and everything. And it's really easy to go into that negative spiral. I've had to stop myself a few times, because to me, I think that the album, there's a couple songs on there that are absolute bangers and absolute hits, and they deserve the most airplay ever, and placements on commercials and everything. But sometimes it can be a long process to get there, and you have to remind yourself that it's best kind of success can sometimes be that slow burn.
Yeah,
I think that I don't know, man. It's so strange. I've been like almost famous for like 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny. Like once you, like here I am at 30, and I always love the comment, "Oh my God, how are you not huge? How are you not huge? How are you guys not famous? Famous. Just throwing around words like that, and that's how some people think and how some people communicate. So you can't shit on them too much, but there's so many different levels of success, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
and that kind of feeds into not comparing yourself to other people. And I think one of the greatest things that an artist can do is be happy where they are and remind themselves how hard they've worked to have even just some of the simple things, to have your art, be able to hold it, and to be able to see your name on a T-shirt, to be able to see your name on a marquee, whatever, just to be able to get to that point. You got to give yourself a pat on the back. And yeah, my definition of success is probably very different than yours, or maybe even fellow musicians. It's a very interesting career that we're in, because there's not always a lot of quick recognition, and you have to be patient. You have to be very patient and remind yourself why you got into it in the first place.
That's really the thing, man. And we talk about it a lot on this show, where I think the like being authentic is what's most important. It's what I think people gravitate towards the most. And then also, making sure that you're doing things for the right reason. Like fame to me should be like the last thing on anybody's mind in this industry, because chances are it's not going to happen. And also it's just not like it's just like the lowest version, or what's the word, metric, the lowest metric of success to me is how many people know who you are. I mean, there is an element of like being able to connect with as many people as you can through your music and all that. But I think ultimately the best metric for success is, have you set out a goal and have you achieved it? And that right there, and acknowledging that you've done at least that, is super important, because that gives you that little bit of fuel, that gratification that you need to get to obtain that next goal that you're going to set for yourself. And then maybe you do that better than you did on the previous one or whatever. Maybe more people find out. But I think if you keep doing it and you keep staying true to yourself, it inevitably reaches more people. That's just going to, like, the money comes and you know, the fame, if that's something that you really need, not you specifically, but just whoever out there. All that stuff, I think, just kind of falls into place if you keep like just being true to yourself and, you know, to an extent, playing the game the way that it's set up to be played, but ultimately doing that as authentically as you possibly can, I think is what really connects with people.
Yeah, man. I remember whenever I first started, you know, getting out of Asheville and touring. I mean, it's been 10 years. You know, we started traveling around the Carolinas in 2013, and I remember my mentality at that time was just be as busy as you possibly can. And I still kind of have that mentality, but I'm way more strategic about things. I definitely know how to say no to some things. There are definitely plenty of shows and situations, you know, and a few people, not a lot, but you know, a couple people that I surrounded myself with, you know, in my 20s, I didn't need, you know, to have in my orbit. And as much as I fear and despise growing older, I am very thankful for everything I've learned. I'm very thankful for my appreciation for life now. And you kind of have to go through those little moments of crisis and trying to figure out, you know, am I successful? Am I, you know, like, or what does that mean in my mind? What does that, you know, like, and what does that mean to most people? And I think it's a fluid thing. I don't think anyone's got it figured out. And I think that's one thing to keep in mind in the music industry, because I've played recently with one of my like heroes in the songwriting world, and I was shocked to see how much we had in common. And I mean, we were talking about one venue in a city that he lives in, and I'm like, man, I can't, you know, I haven't been able to reach him yet. He goes, me neither. And I'm like, dude, you're like the king of that city. What? Like, everyone knows you there. So it's important to keep in mind that, like, even some people that you put on a higher pedestal, which was this guy that I'm talking about. I mean, I got to open those shows, and I would have been there anyway because they were just in our backyard. And I don't see why I can't say his name. It was Aaron Lee Tazjan, and we did a show in Charlotte together at the Visualite, and we did a show at Mills River at the Sierra Nevada Malt Disney World situation. And he was just so damn down to earth and relatable, and just not stuck in anything for the wrong reasons. He was a very admirable guy and a very real person, and he felt the road just like sometimes I felt the road, you know. And it just reminded me that sometimes you think that everyone has got it completely figured out, but everyone's doing their best just like you are, you know. And maybe they've gotten a little bit more recognition, maybe they've been in it longer than you, but yeah, like you're saying, as long as you're in it for the right reasons, you know, I think it's really important to stay true to yourself and not let anybody tell you what you need to sound like. Don't do things because you think it'll, you know, make you go viral or anything like that. I mean, at the end of the day, though, we are talking about something that it's a job. It's a job. This is the only job that I've known. You know, I work part-time at the Orange Peel, great music venue here in Asheville, North Carolina, and I sell tickets, and I've cleaned the bathrooms there before. I've cleaned up puke before. I've X'd people's hands for drinking too much. You know, I've been in the behind the scene thing, and I've been on the stage. And what I'm trying to say is, it's always been music, really. For my adult life, it's always been music, and it always will be music. and you have to fight, to support yourself sometimes, and stand your ground and set your minimum and kind of figure out, what you will and what you won't do. And I think as long as you're actively doing that, and you're making music that can unify people and help people, it can help you get through things. It can help, the person listening get through some things. Then you're doing it. And if you got a busy schedule, you're playing, even if it's sometimes, 25 people or 10 people at a show, whatever, you have the chance to change their lives and to have a great night. And that's just something that's so valuable.
Yeah, totally, man. And I think that like what a lot of people view as success in the music industry, or really I'll speak primarily music and entertainment, is like it's not always what people think it is either. Like, when I was in LA, I saw Corey Henry, keyboard player for Snarky Puppy. I saw him playing in a tiny club in kind of a shitty part of town, but it was the place was packed out, but it couldn't have held more than 150 people, if that. That would be being generous, and that's just a show they were doing on a Monday night. Meanwhile, with Snarky Puppy's on tour, headlining festivals and playing big shows around the world, and then when he's home, you do what you got to do to. I mean, granted, it's fun, it's creative, I'm sure, and then some of the biggest pop bands in the world are still playing corporate gigs, and those are soul sucking for them because people don't pay attention to them at those things either. So it's like, success is never what you think it looks like, so, we're all, like you said, we're all doing what we got to do to kind of get by in this thing, and whatever that looks like is just what it looks like,
There isn't a finish line, I think, is a good way to think about it. There's not a finish line. There's not a point that you get to where like, I did it. Yeah, I'm completely successful. Everyone take notes from me. I mean, like, I guess you could look at some of the greats, some of the legendary bands that are either still on this plane or not, and be like, oh no, they did it. They definitely did it. There's always something to be learned. And I don't know who the hell this is calling me. I apologize. They can just wait. I'm sorry. Is that beeping coming through?
No, not at all.
Good. Okay, awesome. That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah, no, you're good.
And you didn't hear that either, did you?
Nope. Why, did you fart?
Yeah, I farted, yeah. Just joking. Or am I? The people might not ever know.
They won't ever know, bro.
But yeah.
No, yeah, man, that's there really is no kind of there is no real finish line, like you're saying. There's no goalpost. It's just you just keep going, because that's what you got to do.
I think there's a couple things you have to have. You have to have respect. I mean, to me, I'd rather have the respect of a smaller amount of people. It's still technically a large amount of people, but I'd rather have the respect of a smaller group instead of just being known by millions, but in a way to where they don't really actually listen to what you're doing.
Right.
So yeah, like, as long as you make the connection with people and you're trying to do that every time, and you're working, if you're out there grinding, you're working, you're talking to people, you're communicating, you're promoting, you're playing shows, you're emailing, texting, like doing all that groundwork. If you're doing stuff like that, then you're doing it. You're in the industry, and don't stop. I think that would, I've had younger musicians in like their early 20s or so, kind of pick my brain a little bit, and I feel like the best thing you can do is not stop. If you believe in something and you're getting good feedback and you feel like it's going somewhere, don't stop, because ultimately, sticking around is a pretty powerful force.
Totally, man. Longevity in this industry is one of the hardest things to achieve, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't even plan it. I mean, I didn't plan to be when this band started, when I got the band together, I didn't plan on it being a 10, almost 11 year project. You know, maybe at one point I thought that would be really cool to look back on, but like that was never the goal. The goal was to have fun, make music that was exciting, and just get a better understanding of what the fuck we're doing on this planet, you know, and trying to just understand yourself even more, you know.
I think that's another cool thing about getting older, and I do want to put like an emphasis on this, that 30 is not old by any metric. And
I know, but 19 or 20-year-old Andrew would be like, "Oh my God, it's done, it's over."
Totally,
yeah, and it's complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think that also there's an advantage to being more seasoned as you get as you age a little bit more, and the mistakes that you make are, you know, different. They're not. Hopefully, they're coming from. The decisions that you're making are coming from a place of, you know, more wisdom and education, right. And your
not fear.
Exactly, and
yeah.
you're you know, you're making moves that you're learning how to say no to things and putting your energy into the right places now. So I think that you know, while you still do have you know, youth in you, you're able to really maximize it because you don't have to like grind for the sake of grinding. Now we're grinding because it's like, well, you know, we're still working hard because we have the energy to do so, but also we're not going to waste the energy that we do have on things that don't make any sense to us anymore, you know?
That's a good way to put it. Like, decisions come from a place like they turn into an informed decision, not just like, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, you know? Exactly.
I think that's a really good feeling of being able to, like, you know, like you're trying to make a decision about something. You're like, oh, I know exactly what to do in this situation because I've done it before.
Right.
Or something similar has happened that leads me to, you know, make a well-informed decision about this. And that's definitely nice. Yeah, this is awesome. You guys do a good you guys like provide a service, you know, to the music community. This is awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's what we kind of, you know, set out to do originally. We started this thing during COVID, and it was like Billy and I were just kind of looking to talk shit to each other, and as well as, you know, keep the conversation about music moving when everything was locked down and our touring stopped and everything seemed to stop for a while. And so this was our way of kind of keeping the scene moving. And when Chris came on board, Chris and Gene came on board last year and started, you know, and as we started thinking about getting bigger guests and different things. And, you know, the conversation's always been about informing people, but doing it through a method of, like, you know, conversation and and also but now it's just gotten even more so because the type of people that we're getting on are so you know, seasoned now, and coming and talking to guys like you, people that we've, you know, done the thing with. Like, you and I have been working together for years now, you know, and we've done the touring thing together, and you know, and then talking to people like, you know, Bob Reynolds from Snarky Puppy and people like that are just like, that have like this next level kind of experience. So like the idea is to really be trying to, you know, shine a light at every level of this thing. So hopefully musicians that are just getting started or that are in the thick of it as well can, you know, hear a perspective that maybe they haven't considered before, you know?
That's, man, and there are different levels to it and everything, but it's important not to get, you know, too in your head about where you are, and just make sure you're still enjoying it and you have good intentions, man. And you've always had that in your bones, so it's always good to connect with you on that level, man.
Appreciate that, man. Well, so I don't know if I told you about this. I've been slacking on this front, but we do a segment on the show called Unpopular Opinions. And
oh, sweet.
We just
too many jam bands.
Yeah, too many jam bands. Wouldn't be the first time it's been talked about on the show. I can say that much right now.
All right.
But so we'll each go around, say something, and then we'll discuss it and see what we think. So Chris usually kicks it off. What do you got for us, Chris?
This is a simple one, but it's true to my heart. Mountains are better than beaches, just in general. I would go so far as to
Mountains are
say
better
beaches
than beaches.
suck. But, yeah.
What if you get both of them? What if you get both of them at the same time, like in California?
That doesn't sound fun.
That's literally the greatest thing in the world.
I don't know about all that, because then everyone loves going on vacation to the beaches, and that's like the majority of what America does. They're like, all right, in the summer we're gonna go load up to the beach and burn our skin and get cancer and get sand in every crevice in our body, and roll the dice with getting sucked out to sea or eaten by sharks. Whereas
Well, the mountains are real safe too, right? No one ever goes missing in the mountains.
no, Sasquatch takes care of people up there.
Avalanches,
the thing is, you can go-
rattlesnakes,
Bears.
You can go check out. There's like 3 beaches, right? There's the average ass beach, like Jack's Beach. That's just an average beach. You've got a tropical beach, and then you've got like a weird California rocky beach. There's 3 beaches, and
Yeah.
once you've seen all 3 of them, you're good to go.
I think
You can go.
What
to the
about Myrtle
same-
Beach?
I think your assessment is wildly incorrect.
I've been to some beaches. I know what I'm talking about here.
Been to
But you go to the mountains, you can go in the same mountain chain and they're all different. You're not looking at the same flat curve with water. It's like, oh, look, that's a different collection of beauty. Whereas I can
Flat
go
curve
to,
with water.
and I go to any beach on the East Coast and I've seen it already. So, like, not a fan.
incorrect, but I do
It
agree
is
with you
totally
that
correct.
the mountains are better. But I think you're totally wrong as well about beaches.
You are. When's the last time you went to the beach?
Andrew, what do you think?
Answer the question.
Yeah.
Answer the
yeah.
question.
A few weeks ago, I was just on a cruise, so
Okie dokie.
So if I lived where you like, if I lived in Jack's, or if I lived somewhere where there was an ocean nearby, I would be there numerous times a week, for sure, because I do find certain peace with the ocean. But there's something about the mountains that can really speak to your soul, and there's just a lot of history and a lot. You can find peace, I think, easier in the mountains. Just being alone in the woods is a really powerful thing. But I also love the ocean because it's beautiful and I love it. I'm terrified of it at the same time, and it's such a cool, scary thing. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
There's definitely an element to both that are amazing. I prefer a quiet beach that doesn't have a lot of the tourism that happens in like the Florida beaches do. So, and also along the East Coast, like you have like the Florida beaches, and then you have like, the Outer Banks, and you have like the beaches up in New England, which is a whole different thing. There's a wild variety of beaches just on the East Coast as well.
Same.
But then in California, you have like, Southern California, which is like the hills that are kind of a nice juxtaposition. There we go, against the water, and then you have Northern California, which is like these mountainous, just like cliffs and that are just towering over this monstrosity of a beach and an ocean, which is the Pacific, which is just super formidable. And what an experience! Just the volcanic sand that's out there, which is like all black, and it's super cool. And when you find a quiet beach where there's no one there, and to look out into that's a certain kind of like perspective and inward thinking that I think, and then the sound of the waves crashing, like all of that can be so meditative as well. That being said, I agree with you. The mountains, to me, are like something about it. Like even like when we went to your place up in Winston-Salem,
Yeah.
when we spent a couple days out there, I couldn't help but just start playing like bluegrassy Americana stuff. It just came out of me. I wasn't listening to it more. It's just there's something about that kind of peaceful environment, quiet and desolate, that just brings out this kind of that kind of sound out.
Indeed.
I think Myrtle Beach is the greatest beach there is, and everyone
Go
should
fuck
experience Myrtle
yourself.
Beach.
Let's take Vegas, cut it into fucking tiny little pieces, and scatter them into the ocean. That's what Myrtle Beach.
right. If you ever wonder what Myrtle Beach would look like in the mountains, just go to Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg. Okay. Where is it? North Carolina or South
Gatlinburg.
Carolina?
Tennessee.
As Tennessee.
Tennessee. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've.
No, it's not too far from Asheville.
Is it what is it, like a river or like what is it?
It's kind of like Dollywood. Like it's like the Smoky Mountain Moonshine place, and they have like some like Ripley's Believe It or Not things.
as
It's,
gimmicky.
it's kind of
Very
like that.
gimmicky.
It's very gimmicky and very
It's Myrtle Beach for
just
people who don't have the
saturated.
gas in their tank to go to the coastline.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
I like it. Andrew, what do you got for an unpopular opinion? You got something that came to mind?
Yeah, immediately as soon as you said Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is better than Dial of Destiny.
I don't know what either of those things are. So-
All right,
Not a
Indiana
big Star Wars
Jones
fan,
and the not a big Star Wars.
Is that also
Indiana
a joke?
Jones.
Indiana Jones got you. Okay.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is the fourth movie. I think it's not as bad as people say.
That is.
And
Go ahead.
the new one I thought was really fun, but I just was I was disappointed.
Is Harrison?
But then again, I watch. What's that?
Is Harrison Ford still Indiana Jones?
Yeah,
Dis-
I feel like such a turd just like saying this, and you guys don't even. Oh man.
No. This is fine. No,
I need to pick another one.
No,
Should I pick
no.
another one?
No. I want to dig into this real quick because first off, I think that your opinion is probably wildly unpopular because I think that I can understand people being like fans of something and not liking the fourth rendition of that thing. But then also, does it not get like unbelievable that Harrison Ford is this guy that can just do all these crazy like stunts and live that kind of a lifestyle? Isn't he like 80 years old now?
You're correct. It does not get old.
He drank from the Holy Grail, and so therefore I think he might live forever. But he's gonna age. He's just gonna like kind of wither away, but he'll always kind of be around.
He'll always kind of
I love Harrison Ford so much.
I do as
Indiana
well.
Jones growing up was like that was my action hero growing up.
Okay.
But like I watched Last Crusade right before I went and saw Dial of Destiny, and I was way too hyped up. I had my Indiana Jones hat on, and I was just like a 12-year-old. Oh, I'm serious, man. I went all in, and we got like I think like 9 people together to go to the movie, and yeah, I was kind of disappointed.
Oh, you were just.
I
so
don't
you
wanna
didn't like it at
spoil it.
all?
No, I liked it. It just it was a little all over the place as far as plot, and some of the special effects I thought were just kind of like I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. People could be listening and they haven't seen it yet. But yeah, that's my unpopular opinion. I think the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, people shit on it because there's aliens at the end of it. But I thought it was a pretty fun movie. I didn't think it was that bad.
let's say Harrison Ford it has to get recasted, right? Or like we have to recast Indiana Jones because Harrison Ford is just come on, he's getting old and this is not believable anymore.
This is it. This is the very last one, and he confirmed that they're going to do like a TV series, and like he's not doing anymore.
Oh, okay. Well,
For sure.
Well,
Yeah.
who can play? Who else can play
Okay.
Indiana Jones? Do you think?
The only guy that is allowed to do it is the guy that played the young Han Solo in the Star Wars movie. For continuity, it has to be that guy.
Okay,
That's true.
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
I don't know his name, but
honestly,
he's the guy.
He's the guy.
I think Chris Pratt would be fucking great. Actually,
That's a great answer. I didn't even think about that.
I think he would be really good. He's not going to go full Andy Dwyer, of course. But he's going to have that comedic side because that's one thing that those movies have. That honestly, unfortunately, I don't think the new. Like the original ones have that kind of goofy humor. It's like he's doing his best. He's in over his head. Oh,
right.
And he's just a guy. And the new one's a little too fucking dramatic and points out people getting killed. It's like, yes, we know that people die in the movies.
Yeah.
It was a little too dramatic. But anyway, yeah, I think he'd be a cool combo of that, indie character. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a great recasting, actually. I'm trying to think of who else could possibly do it as well. But
Lady Gaga.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say let's get on the woke culture and get a lady.
or we get Idris Elba to do it. They were gonna cast him as James Bond.
That's true. Didn't work out, but all right.
Okay, here's my unpopular opinion. Saying that you're a fan, saying that you're not a fan of just whatever, right? Just it can be anything, and then saying, "But I like this thing," is not an endorsement of something that I would take seriously, right? So, example, if somebody was like, "I don't like jazz, but I like what Lady Gaga did with Tony Bennett," like that would be not a great endorsement of something. Like, if you don't like the thing, why would I believe that this thing that you like is the thing that I would like then, right?
That makes sense.
It's a great beacon
Nice.
to know what it's not. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. So you like, let's use that example. You like the Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett thing. Cool. So then I know I'm going to listen to not a jazz record because you don't like jazz. So I know I'm going to go listen to something poppy that maybe has a flavor of jazz.
Well, yeah, that was just that they did that live collaboration thing, which was like, which is fine, but that was just an example of one thing.
But I think that applies to just about anything.
Yeah.
You know, like it's an endorsement. Like if they say that, you know what you're not getting.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like somebody came up to me one time. We played some like festival here. It was like years ago. I think even before Billy was in the band, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm not usually a fan of music," which is a stupid thing to say, anyways. But I like your band, and I was like, "This is mildly
needs
insulting." So, you know what I mean?
Normally sounds just don't do shit for me, but the way that you guys do sounds are nice.
Yeah, it's like, it's like you couldn't like my purpose is to try and make you feel something. If you're somebody that it's incapable of feeling, but somehow the thing that I just did made you feel something, I'm going to question that feeling that you have and probably not want you to feel it. You know what I mean?
Maybe like whenever people say that, it's basically just them demonstrating how they perceive things and or what their takeaway is, on like a very surface level. I guess.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like if it's coming like now, say that same setup is coming from like a friend or a qualified source. Like if you came to me and said, "I don't normally like country, but this album right here is great," then all of a sudden it's flipped 180 degrees and go, "Okay, cool. I definitely need to check this out." Like I feel like considering the source is huge. Like
For sure.
if a stranger's like, "Yo, I don't like country, but I like this," it's like, cool. I'm going to go ahead and ban that off my Spotify just to make sure. But if it's like, someone in my band or one of you guys, it's like, okay, I should probably check that out because this is moving the needle for something that doesn't move the needle. So like, considering the source on this one, I don't know. It's 100 like
That's a fair point.
Complete opposite ends of the spectrum, like night and day.
Yeah, that's a fair point, I guess. The source is
I
definitely a
don't
big
normally
thing.
love like I don't normally love like super duper like radio pop, like new radio pop. I fucking love Miley Cyrus's new album.
Really?
It's amazing. Yeah,
She kind of
that would be my example.
Has she kind of like gone in a different direction than like the pop stuff that she used to put out? Maybe like it's kind of more edgy. I think I haven't heard it yet, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean the song that's in one of them that's in heavy rotation is "Jaded," and it sounds like she's actually got a band behind her, and it's just tasteful, I think, and her vocals are very unbridled and just fucking rock and roll, man.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, I think she came back off the edginess and is like making real music again instead
Okay.
of just like shock pop.
Right,
That song "Wrecking
yeah.
Ball" was pretty good though. It's a good song.
But that was in that era of just like, like it was more about the video and like, yeah, the song popped off, but like the whole imagery of that just like wild, naked wrecking ball thing is like the first thing I think of when I think of that song.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's
feel
what
that.
I should do.
Yeah,
I should get naked on a wrecking ball, and that should be the video for Too Many Jam Bands.
yeah.
Yeah, or just something of that nature, and or just maybe a video just running on the stage of jam bands and just knocking all their instruments
Bro,
out.
just fucking just get like a wrecking ball and get on the wrecking ball naked and have the wrecking ball go into the Grateful Dead's wall of sound.
Yes.
I was thinking Trey's $10,000 Languedoc guitar, but like same idea.
Same idea. We're on the same same wavelength here.
I love it.
Andrew, thanks so much for being here today, man. This is a blast talking
man,
to you.
absolutely.
It's always great catching up. I wish you the best with everything. Congrats
Same to
on
you.
the new album, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you're going to be putting out when you get back into the studio later this fall.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Anton, Chris, guys, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for doing what you do. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, much love, y'all.
All right, peace.